Hi, I'm Melissa Martin. I'm the branch manager at the University Community Branch Library. Today we're going to learn how to make a hex nut bracelet. So what you're going to need are 7 hex nuts, a binder clip, 3 lengths of macrame cord, 18 inches, 24 inches, and 54 inches. You'll also need some type of glue or clear nail polish to tip off the ends after you cut them. So let's begin. So the first thing you want to do is you want to set aside 2 of the hex nuts and the shortest length of cord, the 18-inch cord. We're going to use that at the very end to make the clasp. So to set up, you want to have your clipboard. You're going to take the 24-inch length and clip it underneath the top. You'll notice you want to leave about maybe 8 to 10 inches at the top and about 8 to 10 inches at the bottom. This is going to give you enough to work with the clasp later. Okay, you're going to take your longest length of cord. This is the 54-inch length. You're going to lay it underneath the center cord. This is the center cord right here. And then you're going to make sure that the lengths on both sides are mostly even. Perfection is not required for this craft. Okay, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to make a square knot. To make a square knot, here's what you do. Take your right string, cross it over and lay it on top of your center cord. Take the left side, bring it down, crossing over the other cord. And when you look at the center cord, make sure you lift it and at an angle, guide your left cord under and through the loop you made on the right side to make a knot. That's half of your square knot. And now you flip and do it the same way on the opposite side. You create a loop on the left side with the rest of the cord hanging off to the right. You take the right side of the cord, bring it down and over your length, lift your center cord, and then pass your end under and through the loop on the left side. Snug it tight. And there's a square knot. It looks a little lumpy right now, but once you have a row of them, it'll look very nice. When you're making the square knots, you want to start off by making 4 of them. So as you can see, I've made 1. I'm going to go ahead and quickly make 3 more. So over, under, and through. For those of you who remember Sesame Street, you'll remember Grover was very good at this. I'm using white just for the purpose of the video so you can see it very clearly, but you can use any color you want. We're using macrame cord. This one is a soft cotton. There are some looser cottons out there that you can get in the macrame style cord, but anything looser makes it a little bit harder to thread any kind of bead or hex nut you're using. So this is what I recommend. Okay, now we're going to go on to the main part of the bracelet where you'll see the hex nuts. The first thing you want to do is take the binder clip off the bottom just temporarily. You're going to lift the center cord and go find the end of it. Make sure the end is twisted well so that you can thread it easily. Grab your first hex nut and gently thread it. You're going to put it all the way up to the top. And then just for the sake of the demonstration, we'll go ahead and put the binder clip back on. I don't always use it at this point, at this stage in the bracelet, but you can kind of see how it makes it a little bit easier to handle. So let's make 1 more square knot. Here's the first half. Remember, over, under, and through. And do your left side. You don't want to do this too snugly, otherwise it gets a little twisted and you want it to lay a little flat. So just a gentle tug on this cord ought to do it. So you can kind of use a little bit of give right here in the middle, just enough for the hex nut to rotate. But the second half of the knot you can give a much stronger tug to make sure it stays secure. You're going to do that until all 4 of the hex nuts are on. Sometimes what you can do with the hex nuts, since they come in different sizes, The main part of the bracelet has 5 of the hex nuts. You can get them in 3 different sizes, even 4 actually. With the middle hex nut, one hex nut being larger than the others, and you can thread that in the middle spot. You can get a slightly smaller set of 2 for here and here, and then a slightly smaller set for the outermost 2 hex nuts. Eventually, when we get down to making the clasp for the bracelet, you can use even smaller ones. Okay, this is our last hex nut for the main part of the bracelet. Once we get that one set, we'll take a quick pause and move on to the clasp. Okay, there's the main part. Okay, to finish off this end of the main part of the bracelet, you're going to duplicate what you did at the very beginning. You're going to make 4 square knots, and then we'll tie it off and then tip the ends. So there's one. You can see how much of this cord we've actually used. This was the longest cord that we're using to wrap around, and it's almost used up, so that's pretty good. For this last bit, just to make it easier, I'm going to go ahead and put the binder clip back on. Just kind of clear the end out of the way just so you don't get tangled up. Let's make sure. Got that. As you get towards the end, the frayed ends will start to happen a little more often just from the handling. That's okay. That's not going to be a problem. And remember, if you make a mistake, it's just a knot. You can undo it and do it again, and that's very easy to do. So I wasn't counting very well, so I don't know if I had 4 or if this is number 4. So I'm going to do one last knot anyway, and then it'll be fine. I have just enough to do it and still tie it off. Running out of room. Okay. We'll do that one over. That one was messy. And this is where the cord is kind of nice. You can still twist it and make it usable again. Okay, this is the very end of the main part of the bracelet. So as you can see, I've finished off the 4 segments of the square knots. You can see at the very beginning, it looks much neater. I got a little rush towards the end, but you can always undo it and then retie the knot to make it look nicer. So I've tied a single knot at the end of this length of cord. We want to finish it off. So we're going to just trim the edge. Trim the edge just a little bit. You want to use your good sharp scissors. And then what you're going to do is you're going to use glue or nail polish to dab just along the end and finish it off. So I'm going to do a knot in the last one, and then we'll do both at the same time. So this is where it happens to help if you have very nimble fingers. But again, the macrame cord is very forgiving. If you think that length might be too hard for you to do, you can always use a longer length of cord. This one again was 54 inches. For smaller wrists, I have medium-sized wrists, so I tend to use 3 or 4. If you have larger wrists, you can do 5 if you have enough cord, but you can just do 2 or 3 if you have smaller wrists. That way it's not overwhelmed by it, because you are going to have the clasp that will take up some room. Okay, I've made that knot good and tight. I'm going to go ahead and trim it. There we go. And then let's use the nail polish. If all you have is basic school glue, that's perfectly fine. So there you go. Just put a little on the end. This just prevents it from unraveling. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, this is not a diamond. And you can put just a little bit on the end just to get that set. Okay. So you want to let that dry for just a minute or 2. And then you can go on to the last step. Okay, so this is the last part of the bracelet. This is where we make the clasp. That allows you to loosen and tighten the bracelet so it'll fit on your wrist. So as you can see, I've changed the bracelet, I've moved it around. I've taken both ends of it and I've laid them parallel but running in opposite directions so that each end goes in a different direction. We're going to take our final cord. This is the 18-inch cord. Sometimes it's easier if you want. You can go ahead and clip it underneath the clipboard or use the binder clip, that's fine too. And that just helps you have a little more control while you're making the knots. So we're gonna go back to doing our square knots. If you have a smaller wrist, do about 3, maybe 4. If you have a larger or medium-sized wrist, maybe 4 or even 5 if you have enough cord. The cord lengths are approximate, so this 18 inches, if you're gonna be making it for a big wrist, you can make it 24 inches and then just cut off whatever extra that you're not using, and that's perfectly fine. We're not so worried about where it is on this cord right now, because in the end it's gonna be shifting all the time anyway, so that's fine. You don't wanna snug it too tight, you just wanna get it tight enough so that it doesn't get loose. And again, I use my thumb. You can't see it, but I use my thumb to hold the cords down a lot. I'll probably do maybe 3 or 4 for this one. Again, if you don't like the way it looks, you can always undo it and then retie it. Okay, and then just like we did before, when you were making the square knots and you had leftover cord at the end, you're going to want to do a knot, and you're going to want to tip it off the end with glue. So make that really tight. Second one, make that good and tight. Just do a quick knot. Tighten a little bit. Make sure you get it right up in there. You can kind of manipulate it a little bit if you want it to kind of lay in a certain direction. I don't worry so much because once you have the whole thing put together, you probably won't notice it that much. Go ahead and trim off the edges. Put that aside. Trim off the edges. There we go. Put our scissors right there. Go ahead and get our nail polish. I prefer the nail polish, it's just easier. But again, the glue works just as well if that's what you have at your house. And fill that up. Kind of see how easy that goes on with a little brush. Okay. We'll let that dry and we'll do the last part. Okay, so as you can see, I finished the clasp part. Now you do want to have a pull at the very end so that way you can tighten the bracelet when you're ready to put it on. You'll notice I threaded the hex nut on the cord already. We'll do the same thing on the right side in just a minute. Now you'll notice since this hex nut is the same size as the rest of them, it's really too small of a cord and it'll come right off if you don't make a good size knot. So I made 3 knots at the very end. If you can and you're buying the materials yourself, when you go to the hardware store, just make sure you buy 1 or 2 sizes smaller than the 3/16. Okay, that should make your life a lot easier. It could be any size you want as long as it's small enough to fit over the cord. And again, the cord is very soft and pliable, so you can get fairly small and still be successful. Sometimes if the knot's not big enough, you might have to add another one just to make sure you don't pull it right off. Okay, so we'll show you how to do that. Grab your last hex nut. This is number 7. Make sure you have 7 for the project. Go ahead and thread it on the cord. And then just let that sit there out of the way. Push it up so it's out of your way. Get a good twist on your cord so you can make a good knot. And then get it up a little ways. You don't need a lot of length on this part. You just want enough that you have room to pull. So get that one good and tight. This is where it can unravel over time. So as you can see here, I left a little on the end, so if it ever does unravel, I have enough to work with to redo the knots. And then that makes it very easy. The white looks pretty easy. I mean, it's really easy to see when you're filming, but you can see it gets a little grubby after a while. So you might want to use a more natural color when you're making one for yourself, or use one that has a dye color like a blue or a green or a burgundy or something, and that way it won't show the wear and tear. Okay, and then you can kind of see I did 3 knots for that one as well because it looked like it might be a little bit loose. This one I'm going to trim just a bit because I have enough length for later if I ever need it, just to kind of neaten it up. I'll go ahead and tidy this one up just a bit, not too much. Okay, get that out of the way. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is this. Go ahead and pull this. Grab the middle part of the cord of the clasp and hold your hex nut and pull. And as you can see, it's tightening up. until it's completely on. And then I'll show you how to do the other part. Put it on your wrist. And then you're going to hold it with your fingers and then just pull. It's not too hard to do. You can even almost do it one-handed if you wanted to, but it's easier with the pull. And so you'll notice how long this is. You could actually go back and redo your knots if you want them just a little bit shorter, because you don't need a lot of room to take it off. And then you can just pull it again to loosen it up. You just need your fingers there. And that is how you make a hex bracelet. Okay, I wanted to show you one more thing. You saw us make the bracelet earlier, and I wanted to show you what it looks like when you make it with different materials. So this is one I made last year, well, okay, 2 years ago, pre-pandemic. I used a much finer nylon cord, it's about 2 millimeters, and I used much smaller beads. Those are colors that I like. You can go to any craft or hobby store and get exactly what you like. There's lots of different colors. That one is a very popular color, the black, but you can see you can buy them in a lot of different colors, bright colors, dark colors, and then you can get beads to match it. I'm just going to throw a few in my hand here, just so you can get an idea of what we're talking about. So you can see if you had a white or a gray cord, you might be able to use the white and blue beads. The green beads might look good with a black cord or a gray cord, and you've got some brown beads and some pink beads that might look good with a gray or a beige or something like that. You can find all different styles, metallic, you can find ones that are wood, you can find ones that are plastic, all different shades, styles, and sizes. The biggest thing you want to make sure is that when you are picking the beads, make sure they fit the cord you're selecting. There are different kinds of cord, so it's probably easier to find a bead you like first and then go pick your cord later. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. So if you want to make a hex nut bracelet at home, you can see what we put in the kit available at the University Community Library. We have the instructions, we have the 3 lengths of cord, the hex nuts, and the binder clip. The binder clip, again, you can use whatever you have available at home. A chip clip would work just fine. The hex nuts you can get at any hardware store. They're usually about 5 or 10 cents each. They're not terribly expensive. I bought them in bulk, so I bought them for 2 cents each. But that may not be possible for you. So about 5 or 10 cents each is what you can find it for. The cord, again, if you just go to your hardware store, twine can be a little scratchy, so if you can go to a hobby store and find something a little bit softer and out of cotton, that's probably a better choice. You can find it online, but usually it's in larger amounts. So a craft store or hobby store is probably the best place to start. Again, these will be available at the University Community Library, and hopefully you'll enjoy making one too. Bye.